Good evening, everybody. This is the October 13th meeting of the Crossdale Township Public Services Commission. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Chairman, correction, November, not October meeting.
Well, I stand corrected, and it does say October on the my agenda anyway.
I got an email to that effect.
So this is the November 13th meeting of the Public Services Commission. Now we'll call the roll. Kennedy.
Here.
Schmidtke.
Present.
Wilder.
Here.
Nelson.
Here.
Buddy.
Here.
Benaz.
Here.
Kostick here, and John Riley will be absent tonight. Next, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Support.
Support.
Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The agenda is approved. Next, we have the minutes of our October 13th meeting. May I have a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes of October 13th, 2015.
There's support. Is there support? Support? Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of approving the minutes of our October 13th meeting?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I abstain. I wasn't here.
Okay, the minutes will reflect that Phil Kennedy abstained. Next, on pages 7 through 12 of your packet, we have approval of the bills and vouchers. Any questions? There are none. Can I have a motion to approve?
Approved. So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported.
Whatever.
That the vouchers displayed on pages 7 through 12 of the packet be approved as distributed. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The vouchers are approved. Next, we have a review of our statement of revenue and expenditures for the fiscal year for our water and sewer systems. And we'll receive and file those unless there's any questions. That's 7 months of the fiscal year, and I looked at them and everything looks like it's in line. Next, we have the approval of the Treasurer's Report for October 2015. You've all had a chance to look at the Treasurer's Report on pages 18 and 19 of your packet. Are there any questions? If there are no questions, entertain a motion to accept the Treasurer's Report.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Treasurer's Report received. There's no public in the room tonight at this point, at least, so if somebody shows up, we'll give them a chance to speak. Action items. Item number 1 is the priority winter maintenance contract annually that we execute with Wayne County. As I understand it, was this item deferred by the Township Board?
Yes.
And we now have summary of what the roads are that are included in the priority winter maintenance activities, the history of our expenditures over the years, going back for 10 years. And I understand, John Keim, you have some additional information to report on?
Yes, Lerna did a survey of the surrounding communities that also participate, which are Canton and Huron Township. They pay the same amount of money per road mile as what they're asking us to pay as well.
All right, so I know we've questioned that in the past. So Huron Township also pays.
And Canton.
Canton Township. I guess Brownstown, I know Brownstown has a maintenance millage of their own, and they do some of their own maintenance. I thought it was for neighborhood roads, though, but at any rate. That satisfy everybody at this point? Move forward with it?
Well,
Are there any questions?
yeah. I mean, I thought, does anybody want to question just the fact that whether we're doing it or not?
Well, I was always against it ever since it started way back with the road committee.
Well, I think my own view, Jim, is that if we're going to question it, we should question it in the spring once the season's over, not now.
Well, and that's there was some question of whether, and that's come up before. I myself, I actually live, have one of the roads that is done on here, and they're always there. They always do a good job for that road. So I myself think that this is worthwhile. I can't imagine if we were doing it ourselves number one, we would be out there as quickly and as often.
Well, and the priority is, I understand, is school bus routes.
Right.
They
Pretty
get out-
much,
They
yeah.
get out and salt them first thing. We're sort of being salted the same time as expressways are being.
Yeah, and plowed.
Right. Well, any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve and recommend approval by the Township Board.
So moved. Second.
Moved and supported that we approve an agreement with Wayne County for winter maintenance services in the estimated amount of $28,203.06, and that the recommendation go to the Township Board at their next meeting for approval. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor to keep by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
Nay, me.
Heard one negative vote from Mr. Schmke. And resolution is approved. John Keim is filling in tonight. Our Lorinda Veneto is not feeling well. So, John, you can do the manager's reports on delinquent water bills and work orders.
Yeah, the delinquent water bills, she asked me to defer till next month. She's more versed on those. That's more of a clerical action item. The bi-monthly work order report you have in your package just shows what our staff accomplished for the last 2 months. Between all the dead deer we had to pick up and meter readings and restorations, we had a little bit of overtime on the bike path.
I don't have.
Hey,
I don't
we
have
don't
such.
have
a,
Oh, you don't?
We don't have
I'm
anything in
sorry.
our-
Okay,
no.
well, let's through it. So we had 24 dead deer that we disposed of.
These are things that the Public Works Department
Correct.
takes care of.
In the
Okay.
last 2 months.
Go ahead.
We data logged 1 meter for a customer request. We finalized water bill to 35 different customers. We had 20 seasonal turn-on, turn-offs. We completed our flushing program of the fire hydrants. We had 15 rereads, 60 miscellaneous. Missed dig requests, we had 101 of those. We completed the bike path mowing for the season. Did 2 restorations from water main break repairs. Worked on 6 stop boxes. We did 3 turn-ons, and we repaired 4 valves, and we also repaired 7 water main breaks in the last 2 months.
John,
Yes.
the mist dig.
Yes.
What do you guys do on the mist
Stake
dig?
the water and sewer. So
Okay.
if people are doing construction on that site, then we mark water and sewer so they don't
okay.
damage our utility.
Okay, that's right, the water.
That's a good question. I mean, so if anybody's listening and wondering what Dig, I mean, Detroit Edison comes out, the phone company comes out, anything that's underground is staked.
Correct.
You do all the water and sewer line staking.
Correct.
You go back on the question of the valves. You fixed 4 valves.
Yes, sir.
How did you determine they needed to be fixed?
They were leaking. So we had to go down
People's yards?
in gate wells mainly. So we had to go down and replace the bolts in main case,
Or in people's yards generally, right?
usually. Yeah.
John, how
Some of them are in
many deer
street.
did you say were killed?
24.
Wow.
You picked up 24 deer along the roadside?
Yes, sir. In backyards. So we assist the public safety building with removing that.
Yards?
Yes.
Any venison at home?
Excuse me?
Any venison at home?
No.
What do we, well, anyway, we won't get to that. What about other dead animals? You picked those up as well?
No, it's animal control. And animal control takes care of the deer as well. We assist them do the size
Of it.
Pick them up with a front-end loader?
Backhoe, yes.
Backhoe. Well, that's a pretty good report. I like that.
Just give you an idea of what we do.
Is that an actual report, or did you have to pick up all those things individually? In other words, does the department have a report that goes out monthly like that?
We just started creating it.
Okay, that we could
So,
possibly
we do
get.
work orders, and this is a work order list of all the ones we did, and so she just compiled that report off of the work order history.
Okay.
That would be interesting. I know that years ago when we had problems with our refuse hauler, and I think Ted will remember this, we used to, and I don't know how many remember this, but we used to get a report of all the missed refuse stops, and it used to number 30 a month. But as far as I know now, we don't have any. Or if we have one,
Very few.
they go back and take care of it, right? The same day?
Yes, sir.
People that maybe set their refuse out late?
It could be. They claim they're missed, but
Yeah. The easy excuse.
Now, the one thing I just want to comment on that is I noticed on my street a couple weeks ago, one morning just after daybreak, and I had set my bags full of leaves out the night before. They were out just before 7. Normally they're not there till after 9. I thought at the time, if they come that early and they miss people, they're going to have to go back and get them. I mean, they can't, even though people are supposed to set it up by a certain time, everybody doesn't do that. And if they know that they're not coming till 10 or 1 o'clock in the afternoon, some people are lax. So just to tell you, my thought is they change their schedule and try to beat a deadline for some reason, and they miss people, they're going to have to go back and get them.
And they do.
Okay.
And a few times where they've already left the island, they'll call and we'll go get them ourselves and dispose of them.
Yeah, there's actually been times, if there's a holiday, your collection's supposed to be one day later, and still show up on the correct day and pick up something.
Yeah,
And then they come back the next
Yeah,
day.
they
and do
have
it again.
they have to come back and do it again because everybody's thinking, no, they're not going to be out. They don't put anything
No,
out.
I haven't seen that happen before with our prior vendors. They weren't honoring the 4th of July or Memorial Day, but contract now, I think the basic, like Christmas and Thanksgiving and 4th of July, Memorial Day, Labor Day, those days are honored.
Correct.
So
And they're posted on the
Columbus
website.
Day and whatnot that are not a holiday for at least refuse collection. Okay, any further discussion on the work orders? That's a good report. Thank you. Discussion items. Well, the millage results is listed on the agenda. I have little comment at this point. We lost by 280 votes, the recommendation we made. I can only say that this commission for 4 years stayed our water system and our road needs. We met with the county. We recommended what we thought was the right thing to do in the community, and maybe it was too much money. Maybe spreading it over 20 years, incurring the debt was too long a period of time. I guess what I would like to just say, and I'll open it up, if anybody's watching and they care to come in and talk to us about why they voted no, that feedback would be important, and I invite you to our December meeting. It's December 8th at 7 o'clock in this room. Other than that, I really have nothing else to say at this point, so we'll just see if anybody has comments. You don't have to comment if you don't wish to. Jim Budney.
Yes, I do have comments. The yes votes represented 12.5% of the voting. We have 8,621 voters on the island. 12.5% voted yes, 15.7% voted no, and 72% didn't do anything. And for as important as we always hear that these roads are, and for as much negative input we get from the people as to how bad the roads are, it was amazing to me how many people didn't vote. Not amazing. I mean, nothing amazes me anymore. But it just very disheartening that people want to complain about something but don't want to do anything about it. And I got a number of emails prior to and after, and in fact, I just received one today, and various reasons for why it didn't pass. But this resident kind of put them all into his. He had all of them, and I'd just like to read so we can some of the stuff that's floating around out there as to why people will say it didn't pass. And this is what this resident had. Greene County showed money on Parkway and Jefferson. So evidently people thought we were going to get something. I guess that's what he means by that. Road tax debate in Lansing. Again, just the fact that road money was being talked about, people thought we're going to get that. Why should we, give anything to Grozeal? There was not a universal benefit for all roads. That I don't understand. I think we hit every part of the island. I don't know how we could have done any more, short of doing every road on the island. But that was one of them. The quoted increase was understated given property value.
Okay.
So, again, you could take your property value and figure it out. The examples we had, of course, were round amounts and easy to, but maybe his value wasn't in there. I'm again not sure what he meant by that. The millage appeared to be a permanent tax increase. The school wants more money in the spring. The water mains were a good issue, but they were linked to the roads. This is one that really, really gets me, and I've heard it from a number of people, and it has nothing to do with the roads, but they want to use it as an excuse for not voting for them. The board wanted to spend $600,000 on a water park that no one asked the voters about. The board spent money on open space to nowhere. The DPS and township management has a history of the lack of management skills, and we're still paying for them on our tax bills, the sewers. And taxes compared to other communities, such as Milford, are high. So, I mean, basically, and then I know a lot of us, I have heard it, and I know some of the other board members have heard, we didn't know anything about it. And I don't know what more we could have done short of going door to door and asking them if we could come in, have a cup of coffee, and explain it to them. I don't know what we can do when people don't want to know what's going on and don't take the time. I mean, there is nothing you can do if they don't want to hear it. And it's very perplexing because I think, and we're supposed to have a mild winter, but regardless, I think the roads will show through the winter, as they always do, and we'll be getting tons of calls. Fix the roads, fix the roads. And I think the voters have spoken. Our electorate has said roads are not important. And I really wonder whether we should take the next $500,000 from Wayne County, because we have to match it with $100,000, whether we should not use that money someplace else. I mean, when you have 88% of the voters basically telling you no or it's not important, I mean, it's kind of foolish for us. I mean, for us, it's very important. But we are the minority, and we are only a commission, and the commissions and the boards work for the people, and the people are saying roads aren't important. That's all I got to say.
Ron Wilder. Anything to say?
No.
Hey, Nelson.
I just.
Mr. Chair, if I may say one more thing that I think needs to be said, and that is everyone on this commission, certainly the board and the township and the people of the township should stand up and applaud Bill Kostick for what he did on this. I mean, he spent a lot of time. He headmanned this project. He spoke. He did the film that was running on TV, and I really think he deserves applause.
Thank you, Jim.
On this.
But all I did is I'm chairman of the.
I agree.
No, please. Thank you very much. Phil.
I just want to echo the comments that Jim made. I kind of looked at it as there's probably three groups of people that voted no. There's probably a portion of those that would have voted no regardless. They just vote no. There's probably a portion that didn't care about the roads. They're fine the way they are. And I think there's a portion that probably thought there was a better alternative from what we put together. And I think that last group is the group I'd like to hear from. In other words, if you think Wayne County has the responsibility of taking care of these roads, if that's the reason you voted no, well, how are you going to make that happen? How are you going to convince Wayne County that it's their responsibility? I mean, we can only work with the money we have. We can only work with the money that's appropriated. And there's just no question these roads are in terrible shape. Personally, I felt we didn't ask for enough money. I mean, we had to scale it back. We had to reduce the amount of expenditure based on Wayne County's lack of participation. And we put together what I felt was the bare minimum acceptable program. And it was turned down. And I'm really at a loss to say right now, where do we go from here?
Let it rest.
Yeah.
Thank you. Les?
A lot of people that I've talked to about this said that if the water was separate from the roads, they would have voted for the water, because they feel that the county is the one that owns the roads. And the county might be going through a rough time right now, but if this went through and we had to pay that bond issue for 20 years, who knows down the road 4 or 5 years when the county gets their finances straightened out, that they would be able to come into these roads, and here we're still paying on a bond issue for 20 years. And I didn't only hear that from a few people, I heard it from a lot of people.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Anything else, Les?
Well, if the water was separate, they would have voted for the water, but not the roads. That's most of the stuff that I heard.
Okay. Ted?
Just a couple of comments. Number one, I'll echo Jim. You did a yeoman's job. And the people that said they didn't know about it probably are not sure whether it's daylight or dark out, because there was sure a lot of information going out there. I mean, we contacted all the communities we could, all the community organizations. We had 2 open houses. And Phil made a comment about a certain number of no votes on the island. Well, that number is around 1,000, typically. And they will vote no on everything. And because of our turnout, which was less than desirable, we just couldn't overcome those no votes. And I understand it. I mean, asking for 2 mills for 20 years is a lot of money. I think our justification, what we did as a commission was what we were chartered to do. We brought it before, said this is what you need, and this is how we can get there, and gave them an option, and they decided against it. And I personally think it was probably the size of the millage, which is, in a high-tax area like this, it's a fairly substantial amount of money. Where do we go from here? I guess that's our question. We've got 2 bond issues that are coming, or actually 3 bond issues over the next 3 years that are going to come paid, which we'll probably discuss a little later. We need to devote immediately, if not sooner, the renovations of the water mains on East River and West River. And with these bond issues becoming due and payable, we can probably do that with minimal effect to the water rates. And I think we have to address the roads issue by issue going forward. I just don't think that we've tried this before. I mean, we tried a 2.5 mil, and the voters said, no, it's too much money. We tried a 2 mil, 2.1 mil. Voters says, no, it's too much money. But that doesn't alleviate our charter. Our responsibility, as I see it as a group, is to go forward, do all we can to get all the money we can from whatever sources we can to repair the roads the best that we can, put as much pressure on Wayne County. I mean, we send them a lot of money annually and get very little in return. And that may become an issue in the future, in the very near future. How are we going to address that with Wayne County? We send you $4.8 million. What do you give us? Justify that $4.8 million to our voters, because our taxpayers here. So those are all issues that, but our charter doesn't change. I know we're all upset. I'm upset that this millage didn't pass, but it doesn't change what we have to do going forward. We have to fix our water mains, and we will do that. And we'll do that through water rates. basically. And hopefully we can do it by structuring the bond issues that we're going to need to go forward with the elimination of current bonds that we're paying to have little or no effect on our water rates. Then maybe the next time we go out for roads, we can go out for just roads. And we will bring it back to them again. Unfortunately, timing becomes everything on millages. And if we start putting them up against school millages, or if we start putting it up against other township services millages, I mean, we got to get very strategic as where we replace this thing on the ballot. But if it's the only thing on the ballot, I can guarantee you, you better get 3,000 voters out there, because you got 1,000 are going to vote no. And you need to overcome that burden.
Okay.
And that's basically all. You've done a great job, Bill. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
This commission worked hard. I know everybody worked their rear ends off trying to get us there. And it wasn't they didn't say, no, we don't want better roads. They just said, no, we don't want to pay any more money for it.
Sure,
I don't know if that makes any sense,
that.
but that's basically what they said. And we've got to move forward with the water mains. That's ultimately important. We're having just a terrible time on West River. That one water main, how long had that been leaking? I couldn't believe the condition of that water main. I mean, that didn't just blow at one time, did it?
2 days in a row. Once at about 6 a.m. and then the next morning as well.
Had there been any deterioration underneath the substrate or anything? What caused that pipe to let go?
The first one was probably the pressure fluctuation, but then the next one, the first one was just a blowout and a bad piece of pipe. The next one was pressure fluctuation when you turn it on and off. It was a bad piece of pipe. That whole piece needs to be redone between Church Road and the treatment plant.
Okay.
We just keep Band-Aiding it.
Yeah, I think we're going to go into that anyway. But I just want to say again, Bill, thank you for the work you did.
Thank you.
And we'll work hard for you again.
Well, I think that we need feedback from the public, those that have a concern about it. Our meeting December 8th at 7 o'clock. I'd invite anybody to come in and wants to talk about it. Let us know why people vote no, and we'll try to digest that. And like I said, maybe
that's all I have.
Maybe it was too much money spread over too many years. But at this point, the roads are not going to be resurfaced. I can guarantee that, because we don't have the money. Wayne County's told us that they're not going to resurface our roads because we're way down on their priority list with what road money they have. So anyway, it is what it is, and we tried to explain that. So let's move on. Next item is purchase of F-250 pickup truck with a plow. John?
Just as a discussion item, we have a 2001 pickup right now that needs to be replaced. We're going to put it in the budget for next year. Loretta and I discussed it and thought maybe we could move it forward using previous year's resources. If we were to do that, we'd save about $5,000 over the projected increase in the cost after the first of the year. The current truck has 116,000 miles with 11,000 miles on the engine itself, which is a lot of idling time during the winter. If the commission so approves, we would like to talk about that and possibly move it forward.
And what you have here is a quote from Gorno Ford?
It's the state bid, yes, sir.
That's the state price,
Yes,
state of Michigan
which
price?
is the same truck that Water's Edge just recently asked for approval on as well. Other than we are not getting a salt box, which they got.
John, this is an everyday truck that's on the road, right?
And it's 14 years old at this point.
I mean, no, and that's what this is used for?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay.
So this one does have a front end blade on it, a plow, I'm sorry.
The current one does not.
Oh, the one that you're proposing to purchase. And the truck we bought last year, was it a 3-yard dump?
Yes,
That has a salt spreader on it.
correct.
If we did any plowing, it would be just our neighborhood streets that the county doesn't get to for 3 days or
Correct.
4 days.
When the township declares a snow emergency, then we would use it. Other than that, it's just township facilities.
The report here doesn't indicate, the money wasn't budgeted for this year.
Currently, correct.
So where are you going to find the money?
Previous year's resources. According to the finance director, we have the money in the previous year's resource fund that we could borrow from to make the purchase.
Actually transfer it to this year's budget
Correct.
and make the acquisition? So you could use this truck.
Yes, sir. The one we have worn out, we just put $940 into the front end. If we do replace it, we were going to try an interfund sale between either the airport or Water's Edge for the current vehicle.
All right, well, this is the state bid. I guess it's a decision to want to give our small workforce the equipment to be able to. And when would this be delivered if we were to make it? It's got to go to the township board.
Yeah, before the first year, if it's approved by the township board.
Well, if it was in the budget, we'd have approved it. So I'm looking for a discussion on it.
Well, this, what we have before us, I mean, we're certainly not putting 2 blades on it. We're not putting 3 light bars on it. So, I mean, it'd be nice to see what is your finished product. What are you actually looking
by the blade
for?
was the $7,000 for the blade, which is the plow blade, and then the best light bar possible for safety purposes.
So that'd be the 1900.
Correct.
How many trucks do we have currently with plowing capability?
3.
How many drivers do we have?
3.
We already have 3.
But one of them is the truck we're replacing.
That one does not have a blade on it currently.
That doesn't.
Does not.
So we already have 3.
Correct. Now, the one we purchased last year is pretty much just for the snow emergencies or salting. This F-250 is an everyday work vehicle that actually our new employee drives currently. So each one of us have a service truck. The 550 that we purchased last year is pretty much just for snow plowing or other larger type.
Snow emergency.
Yeah, and larger type jobs that we do in the DPS. It's not an everyday service truck where this is an everyday service truck.
Okay. And why do we need the blade on it?
For snow emergencies. The 550, obviously we've done this in the past. We bring in seasonal help, and that would give another plow to clear the roads that much quicker. Now the 550 is pretty much for just the snow emergencies. The 350, or the 250s would be for the township.
So you'd have 2 on the road.
Correct.
You have 3
currently.
Yes. This would be 4.
Correct. And then also with the 2 250s we have currently are 6 years old. So if we were to purchase a new vehicle now, it would just implement moving forward. Okay, when the old 250 wears out, we're already that much newer into the fleet with a plow truck.
Would this be something that could wait until the next budget?
Yes, it could. Like we discussed, it's going to be about a $5,000 increase to do it in April. So we're just looking at possibly saving some money.
Well, I'm a little confused about what you just said, John. You have 3 employees,
Yes.
and you currently have 3 pickups?
Correct. It's service. This vehicle is a service vehicle. So it's just an everyday truck for doing all our daily activities. And actually, that truck mostly does missed days requests. So that's what that vehicle is for. So we're going to go ahead and put a plow on it, so when the current 09s wear out, we're already that much ahead of the game for replacing those by already having the newer truck with a plow on it.
You have 2 pickups with plows on them now?
Correct.
Not 3?
Well, not 3 service vehicles.
I understand.
We have 3
As far as
trucks
the
with
pickup.
plows. Correct.
But this you'd have 4,
Correct.
3 employees.
Correct. And we usually bring on the seasonal employees for snow emergencies and things like that. But
Bring somebody.
we have used 5 drivers up in the past.
How do you know there's going to be a $5,000 increase in the pricing next year?
Spoke to Gorno Ford this day. Today.
State bids going up that amount?
And what's happening is they're changing the bodies over to the aluminum, which adds $3,000, and there's going to be a $2,000 reduction in the municipal incentive program.
Really making an investment as you're looking at it.
Correct.
Okay, questions? Les? Bill?
No questions, but I'll explain something. This is replacing the truck that I drove for 9 years.
14 years old currently.
Oh, so the truck with 116,000 miles on it?
Yes.
You have a recommendation?
Get it?
Want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. We get this truck. Go to the township board with it.
Report.
Well, I'm just a little confused because this is a discussion item, not an action item. Are we amending our agenda to make this an action item?
Didn't yet. And we don't have a report on it with all these details John just gave
Well,
us.
and quite frankly, we don't have an actual price on it. I mean, because this just lists is, like the window sticker or something, and it has, like I say, all the things. I'd like to see something a little more final as to what we're actually getting.
All right, so given that you had all these options, John, what if can I just ask Les? Of course, you didn't have support for the motion yet.
Yeah, could we make this an action item for next month?
Could we delay this and have you and Lorinda put together a little report of exactly what you're proposing to get and bring it back to us?
Yes.
When is that increase going into effect? January?
January 1st.
Okay. So
December.
we could do it in
So,
December.
to just speak on that, the municipal price, that is the actual cost of the truck. So the only options we had would be the snow plow and the lights.
What about the bed liner?
Oh, yeah, and the bed liner, sorry.
All right, so why don't you,
Okay.
why don't
Yeah,
you select
we're
what you
still
want
okay.
and bring it back to us with an
Okay,
actual
sure.
quote
Is that
from...
going to give us enough time?
It just needs to be ordered. It
Right.
doesn't have to be delivered.
Well, it's on the ground, it's ready to go.
Oh, they actually have it
They just
there.
have to do the
even
bed
better.
liner, the lights, and
Even better, yeah.
unless somebody else buys it between
So
now
the
and
price, we know we can get the price. Okay, even better.
All right, so you know what to do then.
Yes, sir.
So if it's okay, we didn't have support for the motion, so we're just going to instruct you to come back with a report as an action item on the next agenda.
You want a motion on that?
We could have, we don't need one, I guess, unless
Yeah,
there's anybody that
we
objects.
we don't need that.
Unless
Okay.
anybody objects, that's the direction we're giving.
Yeah.
Okay, next two items are from Joe Keefe, who is the general manager at our wastewater treatment plant. I see we have a guest coming in. Good evening. Craig?
Hey, Craig.
I just want to ask Mr. or Craig if it's okay with you if you hear this wastewater treatment plant report? You came to speak to us, okay, very good. You came to speak to us, I trust. Very good. So Joe's going to give us a report. Joe?
Okay. Month or so ago, Bill asked me to make a report that I provide monthly to Jim, Bill, Lorinda, Ted previously when he was on the commission as the chair. And it used to go to other people, but it used to just get pitched in the trash back when it was always paper. And we actually migrated to now there's two paper copies, one for my files, one for Lorinda's files. So if anybody's interested in getting this report every month, I just got to click your name onto the email.
It can
list.
be emailed, right?
Yeah, I email it to everybody every month. And what Bill asked me to do is just kind of go through, like, touch base on what this report consists of, some of the highlights of what we do down at the wastewater plant. So basically it starts off with a narrative of what went on in the plant, and I always open it up with NPDES compliance. August was kind of a tricky month because we actually had a non-compliance issue with our fecal coliform. A combination of a high flow followed by an equipment issue, and a day later when you get your results, and the calendar played against us, and we ran out of time to get that average back down to the limit. So mostly you'll see, we met all.
Well, Joe, on page one,
Yes.
I would just like to, the fecal coliform is a factor that determines the amount of pollutants in the water.
Correct.
And it says, the first paragraph says, the exceedance was a result of high flow on August 3rd, which was about a 3/4 inch rainstorm, and chemical feed equipment problem on August 4th, along with the calendar and test results not being available for 24 hours. So the plant experienced high flow, and the results of the sample were taken the next day. And then the problem was the injector was discovered that the injector
Was plugged.
Was plugged.
Yeah,
And the injector, what does that do?
It injects the bleach. We disinfect with using bleach, a lot stronger than household bleach. But when it mixes with water, it can form a precipitate, like a lime. And that plugs up, especially if you got a higher flow. Because we do clean these things out weekly, but the higher flow kind of caught it. And we'll do a simple clean each week, and then every month we take it out and soak it in a weak acid solution to give it a thorough cleaning.
But what I wanted to show in your explanation is, so we have the laboratory at the wastewater plant.
Yes.
You don't discover this, that something's wrong until you take your counts and you determine they're high, then you look for the problem.
Correct.
Plant.
I mean, a lot of times you'll know, okay, there was a high flow. We can expect that and get a high count. We can normally get that and average it back down. Typically, it's not a problem. The problem here was August 1st and August 2nd was a Saturday and a Sunday. We don't sample on weekends. So this first sample was collected on the 3rd, which is Monday. We didn't get those results till the 4th. And the way Michigan runs it, it's a 7-day rolling average. So while we sampled the following weekend to try to get it down, it was already too late because 7 days had passed and that average was at 525, not 400. Although the next day we brought it down. If we could have had an 8-day or a true weekly average, which most other states in the country have, we wouldn't have had a violation.
Age 2.
Age 2. Basically just some of the plant operation. August was kind of a typical month. We had a little bit of everything. We had East River Lift Station. We had some alarms overnight. August 13th, where one of the pumps, and actually we think it ended up being both, got a rag of some sort caught in it. And each time, the operator went out and responded to the alarm, he reset it, ran the pump, pumped down the wet well, went back home. An hour later, pump plugs up again. So I think I called in like 4 times that night. Then that day, in the morning, we went out there, we pulled the pumps. Of course, they were clean by this point, so whatever it was finally did pass through. But it was enough to, basically knocked out the contact or the overload for the lift stations.
Baby wipes.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to indicate to the commission is, so it's very typical that a couple times a month you're called out in the middle of the night because of a lift station, and find everybody in that, okay?
Yeah. But yeah, it also happens during the day too, so it's not just a nighttime phenomenon. But they said August was kind of had a little everything in her. And then on August 19th, we had 2 inches of rain fell overnight, and we came in and basically the plant handled it. There were no real issues. It went, the wet well level came up, it overflowed, and then we put 600,000 gallons into the basin. Fortunately, in the middle of summer like that, the ground's pretty dry. The rain, because it fell in such a short period of time, there was a lot of, from the sump pumps, in the fing drains in the older parts of the island, that water did make it to us. If it had fallen in over a slower amount of time, we would have had increased flow at the plant, but so much came in at one time we had to divert to the basin. Bring my glasses today, sorry. Raw sewage pump 2, that was on the capital improvement list. We finally, it took a while to get the pump from the manufacturer, but we did get it in. It's because of the wipes and the issues that people have been having, the pumps have been getting redesigned. They're a little bigger and beefier to handle some of these things. And this is our main, raw sewage pump 2 is our main sewage pump. It's a variable frequency drive. The flow goes up and down. We maintain a constant level in the wet well, but it can flow, handle flows up to 2.5 million gallons a day. But because it was a different size pump, it had been slightly redesigned since the last one, we had to actually bring in our mechanical services pipe fitter guy who had to make some pipes, so, custom make pipes to get it to fit in there with, special offsets, because it just wouldn't line up perfectly with the existing pipe work in the dry well. But we got it in, and it's been very nice. No issues ever since. Well, it got plugged up about a month ago. We had to, it did get jammed up with rags. And we had to pull it for that, but other than that, it's been running like a champ. The sludge pump that we have, it went in when we put the lime system in. The only person around, well, Les and John were working there, but Ted was really the only person around when we did that. Put in that whole lime system, the big storage tank that's out on the north side of the control building and west side of the IBC building. When that went in service, the whole thing saves us $300,000 a year in sludge disposal. Yeah,
More than that.
I think we were paying about $500,000 in sludge disposal costs, and now it's less than $100,000. So, the big sludge pump, positive displacement sludge pump, we had some issues with it plugging earlier, and it also became apparent as the summer went on that it's a positive displacement pump where you have a rotor that rotates through like a rubber kind of stuff, and it just pushes, has like an air pocket, well, a pocket of product, we'll call it, sludge, and it forces it through. As it wears, it can have backflow. It won't carry the pressure, and so you lose the efficiency of the pump. So when the system went in 1999, I specified that they leave us a spare stator and rotor. So there was no cost because we already had that. The big issue was in the real tight working space and the size and the weight of these objects. It took those guys, two of my guys and Steve Pulowski, our mechanical services guy, 2 full days to get that old stuff out and get the new stuff in. But it's working like a champ. Now we can process a load of sludge in about 45 minutes or less. And it was starting to run up to about an hour and a half before we made the change out.
Did you order 2 more parts of the one that you replaced?
Not yet. That manufacturer is out of business, by the way.
Joe, has there been any discussion as far as communication with the public regarding the baby wipes? Because we always talk a lot about it in here, and outside this office, everybody looks at me like I'm crazy, like, what are you talking about? If there is, maybe we should do that. Maybe this would...
I wanted, and I tried to contact Detroit because they have an outreach program, and they had a really excellent thing on the wipes and so-called flushables getting into the sewer system and the problems it caused. They had a great video. And I'll have to try to maybe make a phone call and see, because I just emailed the person in charge of that division. Is this public domain? Can we put this on our cable system? So for the residents here would be, informed about the problems that they do cause. It was a very nice video. It's still out there on the DWSD public outreach site. But I will try to, again, see if I can get permission to use that and get it to these guys here, get it to Ted so he can, run it through the
Well, and maybe, that's a very good point, Ron, and I recall the name of the publication that Parks and Rec sends out every year. channels. I was going to say currents, but it's channels. You know, and isn't there something other than just Parks and Rec in it? I mean, couldn't there be a page on this topic, or maybe even the refuse schedule or something
We
like
have 2
that?
pages there.
So it's something that we could put in.
Okay.
People do read it, and you never know who you might catch. That's a good point, Ron.
Yeah. Okay, I'll see if I can come up with a
All right,
little
Joe,
article on that.
So, Joe, then I see you replaced the chain on the RBC unit. Now, everybody here at the commission has been through the plant at least a couple times, but I wanted you to see, we won't go through the narrative anymore, but, you know, the staff out there, this gives you an idea of what they do. And this wasn't even one of the busiest months. But please read it on your own. You can make that presentation. Do you want to go through some of the charts and graphs, Joe?
Sure.
Page 5. You'll start there.
Yep. Okay, this just
Everybody got page 5?
page 5 is influent. It says influent right at the top. And basically what you have is just lists our flow, our peak flow rate for that day, because it varies during the day. It'll be really super low at 6 a.m., 7 a.m., and 7 o'clock at night is usually when we see our peak flow. Then just the CBOD on the influent and the pounds. Same with suspended solids. These are conventional pollutants. Same with phosphorus that we measure. And on the CBOD and suspended solids, we actually do have a % removal requirement in the permit that we have to meet. Primary effluent, the last 2 columns, once a week we do sample the effluent from the primary clarifiers, which prior to 1980 was wastewater treatment on this island. It was primary clarification only with disinfection. So you can actually see that the results are considerably, we put a lot dirty water out into the river prior to that point. When you go to page 6, these are our effluent results. And you can comparing the BOD, suspended solids, and phosphorus results with the primary effluent suspended solids and BOD results. You'll see that there's quite a difference. The biological treatment portion of the plant is what does a great job of removing a lot of the pollutants out of the water. We also measure the pH. There's limits on high and low limits on pH. Dissolved oxygen is, important for the fish and other wildlife in the water. Fecal coliform, as mentioned earlier. NH3-N is basically it's just ammonia. There is not a limit on ammonia for us, mainly due to the small plant discharging into the big river. And temperature, there's no limit on it, but we just like to monitor that because sometimes we'll see effects like high temperatures and not such good results in the BODs. Third page is basically just
You mean page 7?
or page 7. Sorry about that. This one is just DEQ asked for this. This is basically our primary water quality going into the RBCs, into the biological portion of the plant. And again, we measure it weekly, and that just gives them, these are measurements of pounds per 1,000 square feet of bugs that we have out there per day. It's just standard measurements for treatment systems. Moving on to page 8 and 9, these are general data. It's how much sludge we generate, how much sludge we decant when we decant off a sludge tank, the primary tank, the secondary tank, how much sludge we process, stabilized sludge in gallons. That's running a load to stabilize it, to put it into the big tank for land application later on. Percent dry and pH. So the percent dry is just an indication of, how much water is in the sludge when we put it out there. And pH is actually a requirement. We have to maintain a pH of 12.0 or higher for 2 hours, and that's why the pH is recorded there. We do decant off the sludge storage tank, and then just electrical use, plant-wide, and then also the basin has separate meter. Our water, purchase water from the township. Natural gas use, we have 3 meters for the 3 main buildings out there. How much lime we've used.
Okay, Joe, let's go to page 9, okay?
Yeah.
Oh, I am on page 9.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
What I wanted to,
Okay.
a lot of this, I didn't want you to get that detailed, but what I want to point out, and Ted taught me this years ago, if you look at page 9, the chart on page 9, you got that open? If you go to the right-hand column, it shows water used. So that's the daily use of water by everybody that buys water, right, Joe?
Yes.
From in the township.
That's actually the metered water
Metered water.
that the township pays for.
So if you look across on the 1st of August, the first line, you see that water used was 1.36 million gallons that day, right? The flow at the plant was under that, which was good, right, Joe?
Yes.
But the next day, we used 1.41 million gallons, and the flow at the plant was 1.77. But if you look at the 4th line from the right, it says precipitation in inches. So we had a rainstorm. And then you notice the 3rd day of August, the amount of water used was 0.9, not quite a million, so people didn't water as much as they were. But the flow at the plant was over 2 million gallons, almost 2.5 million. Does everybody following that? This is interesting, and the flows remain high for a couple days following the rainstorm.
Yes.
Then if you go down to the 19th of August, and I'm taking this over because I studied that, Joe. We had 2 inches of rain on the 19th, and you'll see that the amount of water used was less than a million. It was 900,000 gallons. The flow at the plant was double that amount, and it was triple that amount the next day, and double that amount the next day. So you see, when we have a rainstorm, the amount of flow at the plant doubles and triples, could even be higher than that, for a couple days following the rainstorm. So we're taking on a lot of stormwater at the plant. That's what this shows you,
Yes.
right? So I always look at this chart as one I understand at least. So you want to try to skip through a couple of the graphs without much detail, just to tell us what they are?
No, these just are the parameters that we have limits on. The bright blue line, I think those came out in color for you guys,
Yes.
is our actual limit, and the purple line indicates our actual discharge. And just going to page 12 would actually, you can see, it kind of looks like we had an exceedance for pH, but that's minimum pH. So we actually have to stay above that on the minimum pH.
Is there one of these charts, Joe, and there's a lot of work orders and all that in here. Is there one of these charts you want to highlight to us?
On the work orders, or
One of the charts that to you is,
just did want to point out chart 4, page 13.
okay?
That is the graphic that clearly shows the difference between the plant purchased water and our effluent flow, and you also see the blue lines. The bars indicate rainfall. The top line with the black squares, that is our effluent at the plant, and then the bluish kind of line with the stars is the purchased water.
Every time the blue bar goes up, which indicates rain, the graph goes, it spikes.
Yes, the plant flow spikes, and it's kind of in the summer here, you'll see that water usage, purchased water usage drops down because people aren't watering their lawns so much.
And the rest of the report are just work orders and work
Yeah.
that you did.
Work orders, and normally what would be here, but DEQ just changed, we'd have the actual copies of the reports that we send to them. But they just went into a Michigan My Waters situation. They're having fun with it at the drinking water end, too. We couldn't get the reports to print out cleanly at all. I did have some success with this month, so I think they worked the bugs out. It's just very tiny print. So October's report they'll be back for October's.
So I just basically, Joe, and I thank you, I wanted to give the commission let you see one of these reports and let you know all the effort that has when preparing the monthly reports to comply with the state. So let's open it up. You have any questions? Or questions from anybody? Nope.
Yes, sir.
I've got one question, Joe, and it's probably kind of... Talk about the peak flow, overall flow. You have NGD.
Million.
Is that a peak, just
Flow rate, yes, yes. Small portion
a
of,
portion of time?
Yes.
And then it's expanded to a 24-hour day?
correct. The effluent flow total is what flew through there, and
But if you took that small amount and then said if that was over the whole day,
that would be what you'd have for the whole day.
Any other questions? Hey, Joe, well, thank you for this report, and you have the next item as well. You want to go through it?
Okay. Probably a month and a half ago, we had our mechanical services group electrician came out to the lift stations because he was looking at trying to throw together a price if we put the natural gas generators in. So my operator took him out, and at the time, well, he did say stuff to my operator. Didn't say anything to me, but he noticed what happened was we had a couple of these in 4 of the lift stations. The ones, let me step back. We upgraded all the control panels for the lift stations. I think it was 2009, and in 2008 we did the East River station. That might have been 2007 even, where we got rid of the tin can with the dry well where we had to climb down. We just put in submersible pumps in a wet well with above ground controls, unlike, So anyway, our electrician went out there, and what he found was to open up the panel, there's a power switch. And these power switches, after about 2 years, were pretty chintzy, for lack of a better word. And they have a stem that goes into a switch. And the switch, it's kind of a cheap plastic. And what had happened over time was it wore down enough where the stem would sag, and we couldn't close the door. So we had to take the stems out, and basically we bypassed a major safety thing. And that's at the 4 lift stations that were done in 2009. The 1 lift station done in 2007 or 8, that was designed that way. And that allows complete access to energized electrical stuff that we're not supposed to have. You're supposed to be able to kill the power before you access any of this. So that one's actually designed that way. And you got a copy of the near miss report that our electrician generated, and that shows over here on the right side, that is a switch that has a stem that was sagging and was preventing us from closing the door. And that has to be powered off to open the panel. But after it got to the point where it sagged, we couldn't close the panel, and if you can't close the panel, you can't run it, so we had to get around it. But what he didn't take a picture of was the East River station. Okay, and then you can see that there's the main disconnect, there's nothing. There's 2 little breakers here for the pumps and a breaker for the control voltage, and that's it. To access the dialer, we have to go behind this panel. There are no locks. There are just these little turn things to turn it, to access, to get into the energized thing. Then you can hit the main breaker to shut off. That is bad design. But frankly, it wouldn't pass a MIOSHA examination at all. So I had Newport give me a quote, and that was what's in your packet. to replace all 4 of the bad switches, add a disconnect on the outside of that panel at the East River lift station. And then the other thing we had at the East River station was the phone line. The conduit for it somehow separated, filled up with ice and water down below, and apparently allowed some water to get into the panel. So we had sealed that up, and then you can see the line that we put, a temporary line just on the side there to go up and in. But he would, as part of that quote, would repair that and then put the phone line back inside the conduit.
Joe, the picture we have on page 28 also shows a phone line, I believe.
Yeah, that was a temporary fix for Elba. Number 2, the lift station down at the far end of Elba Island. It's been repaired.
That's been corrected.
That's been corrected. That was just a quick fix until we got phone line and had the weather and time to pull it through. So that was basically an upper discussion item for you guys to consider this, or give me direction on what you'd like me to do further to get these repairs. Do you want me to go out and get other quotes or something? But I think the work has to be done at some point. We just can't leave.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
shame on you.
Yes, sir.
Never should an electrical panel be left unsafe like that for any amount of time. Should have been not just fixed for safety purposes.
Well,
A long time ago.
on the four lift stations, we do have a workaround on that.
What's your workaround?
Let me get the picture. On this, you guys got the picture, but those, we can disconnect the power to all the stuff below this point. So the only live wires would be going from here into the tops of these breakers.
Didn't you say that there was a switch coming through the door that could turn off?
Yes, that's what broke, was the switch, the outside main switch. But there's still live wires going here and here.
My point is, this is safety issues, safety items.
Yes.
This should be fixed. I mean, I don't know what kind of direction.
Yeah, that's...
We've got the funds, we've got the operating budget in there. When you're talking about a safety issue, I have a real problem with that, I really do.
Yeah, and Joe, in your report, I thought you said, and I'm a little confused by the explanation, but did you say that these panels are not locked? They're not secured?
No, they're locked.
I mean, people just can't get it open?
No, nobody can get into them.
So tell them, when you go out there to service them, you have to open
It's
them,
us.
unlock
We
them.
have to unlock them to open them, and then access the outer panel. And then if we have to go inside for the reset, I'm not sure on these what we actually have to go inside. It's rare that we have to go inside on these, and that's why it really didn't come across as an issue to me. But our electrician said, it's our United Water electrician said it is a big issue. So that's why he wrote this up.
Right, so I'm not an electrician, so explain to me the hazard of arc flash. What is that?
Arc flash is...
Well, basically, it's just when the switch makes connection.
It's like a spark.
Well, what can happen is all the voltage that goes up beyond into the transformer and up into the wires, if it's dirty, these arc flashes, severe arc flashes are kind of rare. A small spark is an arc flash, but usually those
Could injure somebody.
Yeah, an arc flash can injure somebody.
Right. So what you said, this has to be taken care of.
I think we're stumbling over something, or I think we need to fix it, get it done.
But and I fully agree that it should be fixed. But I would also add to that,
any time in the future that something breaks, we don't just fix it so we can continue to use it, but we also fix it so it's safe.
Okay.
Has to be done, even if it might take a little more money or whatever. We have to go that way.
Okay, so this is a safety measure for the lift stations, right, Joe?
Correct.
And I will read the scope of the work. For the arc flat protection, install open-type disconnect in one starter cabinet at River Road location, repair phone conduit at River Road lift station, replace and upgrade the 4 open-type transfer disconnect switches at all 4 lift stations. Approximate cost is $3,450, including labor, and that from Newport Electric, and that is the electrician that we most generally rely on for our repairs and to keep our wastewater plant going. Is there any further discussion, or can I have a motion to approve this?
I'll just make one suggestion. Now that this is out in the open, you better.
Well, it's almost like an emergency repair.
Well, it is. I mean, now if somebody goes over there and gets fried, look out, there'll be lawyers standing from here to...
Yeah.
No, well, we do actually have arc flash suits that if we have to go in back there, that's our workaround, is by donning.
Yeah. We need to do the primary, not the secondary.
Yeah.
So I move that we approve or send Joe out to get this thing fixed.
Second.
Thirded.
Okay. Is there any discussion or questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Just got it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
Joe, I have a question about the voltage thing that we approved last month.
Oh,
Has that been installed?
it's partially, it's in. It just has to, and it's been programmed. We just have to finish. The electrician had a couple questions for Dave, so he's going to come back either tomorrow or Thursday to finish. But it's already mounted in. Just got the final power hookup to it, and we'll be rolling.
Okay, now what about the fan in the bio room?
I've been trying to look up motors for that. It's a 2-speed motor, dual horsepower. Doesn't seem to be a real common thing out there.
Go to a motor command. If Granger's doesn't have it, go someplace.
Yeah, well, I went Googling it, but it was making my head spin with the amount of stuff that was coming back.
How often do you use that? Just when you're going to clear the room?
Yeah.
I mean, if we had to send it out and have it rewound, could we do that?
Well, I did, somebody mentioned to me that All City Electric might come out and take a look at it for us.
Okay.
My question and what I wanted to do, and I'll do this tomorrow, is I didn't want a super windy day, but I wanted to see, I just opened the doors in passive without fan, how long does it take for the air to get safe in there? Because it takes way too long. If it's hours, I don't think I want this thing in the shop for 3
Well,
weeks.
we can rent a turbo fan and put it in those doors. I mean, we can compensate. We can open the doors and fan
Yeah, well, let me just see what I can do with what we got. I got busy and.
To answer your question, unless I went over and looked at it, it's a pretty simple operation. Buffalo Forge don't make fans anymore. To replace it, I'm talking $35,000-$40,000. The problem is going to be anything we put in is not going to physically fit, so we're going to have to modify the ductwork in and out, which is going to jack the cost up. It's a very simple device. I mean, it's got 2 bearings, a blade, and a motor and a belt. So, and if it's not a continually operating, I said, let's look at what it costs to replace the motor. The old motor gave us 35 years, probably the next one will too.
Yeah. Okay.
Any further questions, Joe? If not, thank you, Joe.
Welcome.
Next, before we go on with the agenda, we have been visited by Craig Pilkington, citizen extraordinaire. You're welcome to come up to the podium. Appreciate you coming in. Even though You're dressed inappropriately, sir.
I'm very inappropriately. Oh, I take it you're a state fan, I'm sorry. I should get a reversible. U of M one side and MSU on the other side, I suppose. Good evening. And I really didn't prepare these comments. I was watching you from home. I don't know how many of us watch the DPS meetings from home. I tend to. And I thought fine, I'll hobble up there and put in my 2 cents. I really like the reporting that you gave earlier on the number of things that the department engages in on a monthly basis. I was amazed by that. I think it's good to have, John.
Did we get your address, Craig? The record?
I have it.
Okay.
I wanted to say great job by the commission. I voted for the proposal. I thought you guys did a wonderful job, very engaged, getting out into the community. It did not surprise me how it went. I thought it could have gone anywhere from 65-35, and if it was going to against, and maybe if it was going to pass, it was going to be a very slight margin. I think you hit on some really key points, and Mr. Van Oss hit on some key points, is that you're going to have, a certain number, and I think you said 1,000, but you're just going to be flat and no votes. I think if you look at the precinct breakdown, you had certain precincts, this time 5, which is a consolidation of 5 and 6, that went against it strongly, had a good, and it had a very strong voter turnout. And that's Hickory, Mesa, Elba, southern end of the island. You had a lower voter turnout of either precinct 3 or 4. I think we had a 24% voter turnout, and I think you've got younger families there, and I think it's really important to engage them. I think we do have an aging demographic here on this island, and as more people go on to fixed incomes, retire, I think it's going to be tougher, regardless of the merit of the proposal. Whether it be for the schools, whether it be for the roads, those things that are very, very critical to our community. And if I could ask, you went to the, and you guys did, again, I think a great job. You went out to the Rotary, you went to the Kiwanis. What other groups? I know you went in front of the school board.
School board, Knights of Columbus, VFW.
All the realtors.
Realtors. Can interact with a lot of people every day.
You went to the senior luncheon, right?
The senior center. I came to the planning commission, went to the recreation commission.
I watched a couple of those.
Fire department.
Fire department, and some police officers were there as well. That's
Every one of these groups that I've heard, I associate with being an older age group, and are probably more inclined to vote against the thing. And well, I guess I'm going with an opinion. And I know I went in front of the school board, and yet I never saw anything. And I've got kids in the schools, in middle school and high school, and I never saw a get out the vote effort and messaging from the schools. To get out and vote, and this isn't important, and I understand they've got to be careful about the positioning, but to get out to the community to try to engage the community. I also think that what I'm seeing or hearing on social media on a couple of platforms is that a lot of our younger families are really upset by this, and they are upset. They've got kids. They want good roads. They want their children to be safe driving down the street. And they're willing to invest in the future of the community. But I think, too, they're probably not the ones that are involved in Kiwanis or Rotary or Knights of Columbus. And yet, if you went out to GIYRA, or you went to Gyra Football or Giza or something like that, to engage those groups, to engage our 25 through 45 age demographic, those families that are young, that are probably most pressed for time, that are multiple income households that are just really trying to find a few moments to breathe before 11 o'clock every night, and they collapse by the time they get through with homework and taking their kids here and there everywhere else. You've got to get out to them, to engage them. I think in that one precinct, if you had that could have been 150 votes in one precinct. I think that you may have been able to turn. And of course, that goes a long way towards the 300 votes? 290 that it failed by. I also think that there's a tremendous misunderstanding of how roads are funded in the state of Michigan. And I have looked for videos explaining the Michigan transportation funding, and it would be great if there was something out there simplistic in nature that had stick people that said, okay, here's how the roads are funded. And Wayne County gets blamed for a lot, and they bring a lot upon themselves, of course, through some of the things that they've done. But I went through the allocations. I've been confused by it. I've learned more about it in the past couple of months. When you look at revenues for, I think it was September, and I think the MTF had $177 million in revenues to allocate in September. And by the time you get, okay, well, 39% goes here and 22% goes there, and we've got administrative charges here and DNRs, is given so much over here. And now we've got to allocate what is left between every one of the counties, and that's very careful. People need to understand this is not, subjective. They've very carefully crafted out these allocations. So by the end of the day, Wayne County has $5.4 million out of that $177 million, and of that's got to go to 740 miles of county road and 800 miles of other roads for other jurisdictions, I believe, within the county. They just don't have a hell of a lot to work with. And more and more communities, I think, are just going to have to take the responsibility for their own roads. But we need to find a way to get that and educate our taxpayers, as to exactly how these funding streams are allocated. Okay, and that they're not subjective. It's not by some whim and political favor, and there just isn't enough cheese to go around everywhere. And Mr. Kostick, who did really a terrific job through this, had mentioned some time ago in a conversation that we should set aside more. We should find a way to set aside more for our roads and set up, whether it's through accruals or something along those lines. I certainly hope you do that. I certainly hope you bring this out as another proposal and put it back out on the ballot again. We've got to have it. It's very key to our property values. And don't give up, please.
Hey,
you guys did a great job.
I appreciate you.
Thanks so much.
I appreciate your comments and how astute you are with the funding situation for roads. And I would just add this. All the property taxes we pay to Wayne County, none of that money goes to roads. The only road money that the county gets is for the gasoline tax and the registration fees that go through MDOT, as you just explained, the complicated formula. And that money's dropped 10% since year 2000. And of course, we just got a new bill coming in, and I guess money's going to start to flow again in 2017. And by 2021, we'll reach this billion-dollar mark at the state level in 2021. The question is, and I know we've looked at it, if Wayne County gets increased funding, and Meridian is number 80 on their priority list, and they do about 14 miles a year, and we're number 80, and we were in the 70s, we've moved the wrong way in terms of priorities. That's what we've been dealing with. And but I appreciate it's a difficult thing to try to instruct people about that. And Ted said we were just as a commission trying to do our job.
Well, just a couple of comments.
I appreciate your comments.
Thank you, sir.
A couple of comments to your comment that the reality is the distribution system for these communities, like our community that has some funding available and has some ability to raise some funds, they need to look at the distribution with contributions from local communities and start assisting, if not taking over. Nobody's asking them to take over. I mean, just give us a break here. And I'm sure this community, if this community, they says we're going to give you $10 million if you put up $10 million, I think that'd be a no-brainer. I think that would be an absolutely no-brainer. And so it's not as much as the distribution as it is the way it's distributed or the formula that they're using. And I think that's where our politicians, not us particularly, because we're pretty low on the totem pole, but the the Wayne County execs and the congressmen, the representatives that we have in Washington need to look at. How do we fund it? How do we distribute this money to see that the people that want it to go through are willing to participate? Because if they're going to put in $1 billion and they can get a community to put in, several communities to put in $1 billion, the road problem's over. Because I think everybody's willing, all these communities are willing to assist. They just don't want the burden on themselves. That's the way I see it right now.
Well, the other thing is, just one last, is it's very unfortunate that the challenges to our aging water distribution system were kind of, we're lost in this. And that while the spotlight was clearly upon the roads, people have to understand that the water distribution systems, they're ours. And I think information like John brought out earlier in the report about the number of water mains, I mean, if you've got repairs, and if you've got increasing numbers of repairs in certain areas, those need to be brought out. And again, thank you guys. You guys did a really, really fine job in this.
Thank you, Craig.
Craig, I just want to say thank you for coming out. Here's a gentleman who got off his chair or couch watching at home and took his time to come down to the meeting. And I just want to thank you for that. I just wish we had more people letting us know what they think, whether they agree with us or disagree. It doesn't matter. We need to hear from you. So thank you for coming out.
This is sort of like reality TV.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, with that, let's go around the table. I have no report other than what I've already said tonight. Ted Benaz. Les.
The only thing I had to report is I had some contractors over to my house this last 2 weeks. First one came today. And he says, I thought you lived on Grosse Ile Parkway. I'm going to be harping about this name on that road. All my bills say Grosse Ile Parkway. It's platted as Grosse Ile Parkway, and yet we have a name on that road of Parkway Drive. We need the proper name on the proper road.
On the street sign?
Yes. They came out and changed the sign that the county put up at the corner of Park Lane and Grosse Ile Parkway. It said Grosse Ile Parkway, I-S-L-E. The county came back out and changed that sign to Grosse Ile Parkway. We still have 4 signs that need to be changed to Grosse Ile Parkway.
John, I know this has been brought up before, but maybe what you could do is have 2 signs on the post on your street, both Grosse Ile Parkway and Grosse Ile Drive. Let people, at least they'd both be directed in that.
But it's platted that way. It's platted as Grosse Ile Parkway. Grosse Ile Parkway and Meridian are platted as a double highway, all the way from Jefferson to East River Road, and from the toll bridge to down here at the Navy base. It's
It just
a double.
happens that your side of the road, the other side of Grosse Ile Parkway, really.
Correct.
You ask him to replace signs.
Yes, sir, tomorrow.
Anything else?
That's all I have.
Bill?
No comment.
Jim?
When will we know about the $500,000 that we may or may not get in 2016 from the county from the Ficano?
Last we checked, it was still available, so certainly we'll have it by the next meeting. We'll try to get an answer.
Thanks.
We're still trying to figure out how to get paid for the first batch.
So Ted, they haven't paid it yet?
No.
We don't even know who to bill.
Well, if that's the case, we need to do some checking, I guess.
We are. We're on it. We're trying to figure it out. So Ohio's trying to figure it out as to what the process is to send them a bill, because the work's already done.
Anybody talked to Mr. Palomero yet?
I don't believe I think Ohio's working with Wayne County Roads people right now to find out what the process is. I mean, we got the bill ready to go. We just don't know where to send it.
I have no idea.
I'm sure they did.
All right, we'll try to get an answer on all those points.
Nope, we're good.
Jim?
Nothing, thank you.
John?
Just like to bring to your attention, we're going to be making a couple road repairs tomorrow. One's going to be at the corner of Church Road and Park Lane. So that's going to be impacted for the next 10 days while we replace that. We're going to replace it with the asphalt with concrete, so the concrete's got to cure for 10 days. Once that's cured, we're going to go ahead and replace the other side. And we're also doing a repair at the corner of Manchester and Blossom Lane. We're going to do half of that at a time, and once that's cured in 10 days, we'll do the other half.
Has water main breaks?
The first one on Church Road is an issue around a gate well in the pavement. Numerous citizens, as well as one of our trustees, brought it to our attention that it's a hazard, needs to be addressed, so we're getting on it right away. And then the one on Manchester, a resident witnessed students walking the safe route to school trip and fall on that location, so we're addressing it right away.
Okay. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
One other thing. John, after our meeting last month, John went out there and took care of the problem on Stout.
Oh, yes, I know. Cleaned up the problem in the ditch. Thank you.
We leveled off their driveway, too.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Reminding us. Anything else from the audience? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I will make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Moved and supported that the meeting be adjourned, and our next meeting is December 8th. All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried, meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, Craig.